Protests are happening again in China. Chinese hospitals are on the brink of collapse. And is Xi Jinping replaced? Here's something unusual. I'm using scripts for this video. And the intro has been redone due to file issues. You know what else is unusual? Chinese people chanting for the end of the CCP. Granted, it's not like last time, but I predict that things like this will become more common as a new generation of Chinese people who have grown up with the internet and VPNs gain more power in society. On August 2nd, a video appeared on Chinese social media of a group of teenage girls torturing another one. She was forced to strip down and beg them to stop as they hit her. It resulted in injuries to her scalp and leg. It went viral on Chinese social media and in the girls' home city of Jiaoyuan. People weren't just mad over this one incident. The unrest happened after years of police inaction and corruption, as well as a lack of trust in local authorities. School bullying has become an increasingly controversial topic in China, as many people say that it's even worse than in the West. And as someone who went to school in China, yeah, they're pretty accurate. It's quite bad over there. From the 2nd to the 7th, the protests about the incident were focused on that, and they were relatively peaceful. However, they eventually grew to encompass other things. Protesters took the opportunity to raise other issues. People began chanting, "Give us back democracy, reject bullying, serve the people." This is when stuff hit the fan. Can't say it on YouTube. Protesters fought the police as they sang the Chinese national anthem, which is very funny because how patriotic do you have to be singing the national anthem as you get arrested? Respect. In one confrontation, a man stood between an elderly woman who was arguing with several police officers, saying, "What are you gonna do, drag away the old person?" he shouts. Several ununiformed police then grab him and drag him away, holding him in a headlock. Eventually, local authorities arrested 2 of the 4 perpetrators of the bullying incident, sending them to a specialized facility for misbehaving children. Parents begged the official publicly for a harsher punishment, kowtowing to his feet for more justice. The next day, water trucks from Hong Kong made it to the scene, and barricades were put all over the city. They still haven't been taken down. School bullying in China has become even more controversial after 2023. Thousands of people protested in Hainan after the death of a 14-year-old boy. The boy's school said the cause of death was suicide, but his parents and local citizens suspected foul play, and many evidence to suggest that they were right has come out recently. The protests have also taken on a larger protest over the authorities and police brutality. Then, the protesters increased violence, the police cracked down more, the protesters increased their violence to match the police, and basically it's a cycle that never really ends. People chanted for the end of the CCP and sang the Chinese national anthem, which sounds weird until you deconstruct the lyrics and figure out that it is a revolutionary song. In fact, some people were even dragged away in trucks made for pigs, which it definitely says something. People online began berating all Chinese police stations so much that they shut down all their live streams, which is very, very funny that they trolled them that much. This story is still evolving, and not much info is getting out of China, so we don't really know what's been going on recently, but I'm sure we'll know in the coming days, so keep an eye out for this story. Next story, hospitals. Now, hospitals in China are funded by the governments of the provinces. However, Beijing gives money to the provinces for it, but that money has been sidelined for the military budget, so hospitals have been stooping to anything to get more money. In other countries, hospitals would just make foundations and, run housing lotteries, but in China that doesn't really exist. So, they've resorted to forced organ harvesting, and much more, but basically, funding in China is more subsidies than actual hard funding. But China also has no system of organ donation. But they do have tons of Falun Gong members and Uyghurs in prison. There are now purpose-built organ harvesting centers for Uyghurs, and that number is set to triple in the coming years. Granted, that's probably only going to triple because there aren't many to begin with. And according to a Chinese military doctor who fled, Taiwanese troops are next. And some sources report that the organ harvesting counts for $1 billion trade in China. But there's more. Chinese hospitals have been giving a overprescribed amount of medications to people and prescribing IV drips for things like a cough. This is because a patient cured is a customer lost, and even when they do get released, their symptoms are often exaggerated to charge more. The good news is that this is changing. The overprescription, not the organ harvesting, that is going to continue. Xinhua News reported that over 200,000 deaths per year were linked to overdosing on medication prescribed by doctors. To fix this, the central government is investing more in medical care, so hopefully that'll convince people to actually give proper diagnoses. And if Chinese state media is reporting 200,000 deaths, the actual number is probably a lot higher. I mean, what country out there would possibly overprescribe citizens just to get more money for their hospitals? Hi, America. And now, is Xi Jinping gone? So, Xi Jinping, the leader everyone thought would be around forever, is looking shaky. Around a month ago, he skipped the BRICS session for the first time. It's a major change and has sparked rumors about him being replaced. He's been experiencing pressure from within and with outside the party. Even dictatorships have leadership decay. China's economy has been shaky, all while the economies of Hong Kong and Macau have been stable. Not a good look. One of the most interesting changes was the change in Xi Jinping's guard. Previously, it was handled under the Central State Security Bureau. However, that has been replaced by a new contingent in the military, meaning whoever is in charge of the military has a lot more control over the CCP now. The replacement shows that things are heating up. See, China does not have elections. However, people in the party are always fighting over power. It has been ongoing since 1921 and will not stop with Xi. And since they aren't done fighting over it, the details we don't really know. But if Xi Jinping does get replaced, we'll know soon after. Anyways, the main faction of the party, which, yes, there are factions, is led by Hu Jintao. It advocates for continued support for Xi and compromise within the party to avoid instability. They say that if the Chinese Communist Party is infighting, they won't be able to get anything done, and need to make sure that they stay stable. The next faction is a lot more interesting. Led by General Zhang Youxia, it advocates for reforms and, get this, following the example of Qing Kuo in Taiwan, meaning China would become a democracy. Big change, while keeping the same legal system. However, I can get behind this, but not so fast. While several reports report this, I feel like CCP members would not like this. And for me, someone who's in charge of the military, I just couldn't see them advocating for this. But I mean, maybe my bias of seeing all government officials in China as evil is making me not believe that maybe one or two of them could actually have a heart. They claim that rigid one-party rule is alienating the party from young Chinese youth and the world, saying that reform and transparency will restore public trust in the government and help steer China in the right path. Xi is fighting back, however, but every day, the protests and economic slump is causing more and more issues for him. Trump is even delaying negotiations on a new trade deal until October, which is when they might replace Xi Jinping. Some factions even told him that if Xi was gone and reform happened, China could become a much closer ally. However, for me, all of this is a stretch, and we'll need to keep a close eye on things for the next few months. And that was all the news I got for now. Sorry I haven't been making these videos recently, but I've been trying to finish up Rules of Navigation, and you should be seeing that relatively soon. But, either way, hope you enjoyed this, and also hope you enjoyed hearing about the bombshell news that's been coming out as I've been not making this show. But, anyways, Soy Gin, and see you next time.